excited about launching on today. The Glow Up is a show where it's going to be empowerment, inspiring stories, fashion, beauty, and all things women. But what I love about this show is the fact that it's going to help entrepreneurs to have encouragement to launch out and go into your visions and execute your dreams. So we hope on today that you get everything that you need from watching this show, everything that you need to overcome, because our guest on today has overcome many trials. And why I'm so excited about her is because our stories parallel. We've been through similar things. We had that rise from the ashes story, that overcomer situation where you were an underdog and then there's like a diamond in the rough type of situation. So I am super excited for everyone to hear her story. If you don't know me, I am Shawneya Ellis. I'm a vision strategist, a coach, and a media personality. So we're going to get started. Have you ever been through a situation where you felt like you couldn't come out? Have you ever been through so much pain or trauma that you thought about, how will I ever heal from this? Well, our guest today is going to talk about how she was able to overcome. So welcome, Miss Marilyn Lacey.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to speak with your guests. I really appreciate it.
Sure, we are super excited for you to be here.
Thank you.
So what I'm excited about is we met a while ago at an event and you were sharing some of your story, and I said I have got to have her on my show when it launches. And you also wrote a book about your story. So tell us, just give us what you're doing now, like as far as the different things that you're involved in. You're a mother.
I am. I'm a mother to now 9 children. It was 8, but it's now 9. And just received my minister's license a few weeks ago. And I facilitate for the Tamar ministry at my church, the First Baptist Church of Glen Arden, where I am just an encourager to women who have been sexually abused or survived any type sexual trauma, women and teen girls. And I also just became the new lead outreach coordinator for our homeless and shelters ministry. Because I do have a business, Restored by Marilyn, and the proceeds from the business and the book was going to me giving back to the homeless. Because I too was homeless at one time in my life. And, you know, we tend to look at our own hands and feel like we don't have anything to give. But I had been collecting shampoos from the hotel for quite some time. And God said, well, you can start with those. You know, they need that. And so my children and I started bagging it up and going into the heart of D.C. around K Street and Central Union Mission and just passing out the gospel and toiletry bags to the homeless.
That's awesome.
And
that
God
is awesome.
has just
been expanding it
ever since. Yeah.
So I know, like, in order for you to get to a point where you want to give, in order for you to be a humanitarian, and even for you to want to have a ministry with women who have been sexually abused, you had to have been through something yourself, because we tend to draw to those people who have similar experiences.
Yes.
So talk to us about your childhood and coming up.
So, you know, I had a really rough childhood, and I want to say the dates are not 100%, because what I found that in experiencing trauma, you black things out, and so it's like it's foggy. But I want to say from 8 to 12, I was sexually abused by my stepdad, and it happened for so many years just because fear paralyzed me from sharing or, you know, telling my mom, and just thinking that she wouldn't believe me, you know. And I was right. I did tell. I actually told my teacher, who I didn't know they were going to call the police and do a whole thing. I was like, no, wait a minute, like, never mind, you know. But my mother was notified, and immediately she was like, she's lying, and that, you know, she's just trying to be fast, and everything you could say, like, she said it. And that really in that moment, I didn't realize until I was older, a part of me died right then.
Wow. How did that shape your relationship with your mother? Because I know that we look to our mom to be a woman. Yeah. So how did that shape, how did your relationship go after that?
So what I used to say before I matured is I started to hate her. But I found out later that I really didn't hate her. I was just so angry and hurt at the betrayal. I just felt betrayed, like I'm yours. I come from you, you know? Yeah. So how could you not take my word? Why would you take his word? And so yeah, it got really bad after that. And that was when I was 12. So by the time I was 14, I was out of her house. I had met another guy, a guy. He was my first boyfriend, and I ended up pregnant by him, and she forced me to have an abortion. And that was my breaking point, because I was like, you're not going to make me kill my baby. And I found out I was pregnant with twins, and she was like, I will kill you and those babies. You know, because for her, like, image was so important. We had to look like, you know, she had a very good job, and all of her friends were like uppity and and so she painted a really false picture to, you know, all of her friends about our children and our life. And, you know, my mom was in very abusive relationships, like almost everyone I can remember. And so it wasn't what it looked like to people. We lived a very different life than what it looked like.
So in seeing those experiences, did you have to endure similar things as far as the abuse? Because, you know, even though our parents might tell us don't do this or don't go into that type of relationship, we tend to mock what we see.
Yeah, we do what we learn.
Right.
And so I grew up to then choose the wrong guys and mirror the very relationships that I resented my mother for.
Wow.
The very ones.
Wow.
The same kind of talk, the same, you know, hitting, verbal abuse. I found myself walking in her shoes.
Wow. Wow.
And was angry the whole while, you know. But it's like it made me it made a tough exterior, but inside I was a mess. And I was a mess for a very long time. And when I say I'm just now stepping up out of the ashes, please believe. And some days I still fall, and I fall back into the pit, and I'm like, wait a minute. God brought me out of here, like, why am I back in here? Let me get up.
Right.
Hold up.
Right.
I'm tripping, you know? And
So after reading your book, oh my God. So first of all, I read your book in a night, I want to say in a couple hours. Because I was like,
everybody I couldn't start reading.
Right. So I said, first, I'll read this for a couple hours. I'll pick it back up tomorrow. But after reading it, I was like, wow, you've endured a lot. And even to hear about some of the things that you had to endure, like as far as drug abuse and the things that you had to do to survive. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. And so, you know, what I learned is that once people stop hurting me, I start hurting myself. And that's what happens when you grow up in dysfunction and there's no outlet, there's no communication, there's no support. It's like all you have are the streets and the people in the streets who are just as messed up as you are. And, you know, I started working at a gentleman's club. I want to say, you know, my first job I was working at a fast food place when I was 14 years old, and then left that fast food place for another food place. And my best friend's aunt approached us and said, "You want to make some real money? Like, how much are you really making at this fast food joint? You can make some real money. All you have to do is put these clothes on and model them, like, you know, do these parties for me." And so you don't know at 14, like, I'm not going to do that. You know, you like how much money I'm going to make. And so we started modeling lingerie at 14 years old. I was modeling lingerie for grown men and women who began to drop money and say, pick that up, you know, just to get you to bend over. And so that's what it was for, quite some time. And then I'm like, this really ain't no money. I met another girl who was like, you want to make some real money? Come to the club. And so I found myself, as soon as I was turning 21, in a gentleman's club. And it opened up just doors and windows into things I had never seen, things I never imagined myself doing.
Right.
And just for money, because it was almost like a power thing to me, because I felt like I have this money, and so now I have status.
Wow.
And I used to do like the cruelest things to men, because something in me had turned off from men. And I wasn't, I would only deal with them for money. Because I was like, look, I'm into females, that's my thing. And then I had guys start paying me to, can we watch it, And so that was my life, like for many years.
Wow.
And, God just started to really pull on me. And the more I went to the club, it's like I couldn't get drunk enough. I couldn't get high enough. I couldn't do anything enough to take me out of the mindset of like, I can't stand being here.
Wow.
I had started to feel like psychotic. Like,
Right.
I'm in this strip club, but if another dude touch me, I'm gonna put this heel through his eye.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I started
tipping
like
top
really,
off.
I was losing it. Like, don't touch me. I'm like, wait, why am I here? And it took a lot, but I was like, you know what? I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I had homegirls that was looking at me like, are you crazy? Like, you just gonna quit? Like, or did you find another club or what? I'm like, no. Like, I couldn't stomach it anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Wow. And the thing that really got me, because sometimes when you identify with someone's story, it's certain things and words that you hear that brings you back to certain moments. So one of the things that I read where you talked about the $150. So tell everybody what that is, because I know if you know about that, you really into a street life.
And you know what? It's like, it's things like that that just reminds me how gracious God has been. Because someone could have easily killed me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Left me laying. Like, I've been in so many situations that I should not have made out of. And so I was dealing with this guy from New York, and oh my gosh, it was like a whole madhouse full of him, his cousins, homeboys. Oh, we all lived in one house. The guys and their girlfriends.
Right.
And so there was one dude, he always carried a razor blade on the side of his mouth. And he knew how to spit it out, but he would spit it into your face.
Right.
And before you could do anything, he would take it from here to here. And that's at least 150 stitches.
Right.
And so that's called a $150. And that's what I was just like, teach me how to do it. And then like, I'm practicing, I'm studying it, like I'm trying to get a degree in spitting these razors. I'm telling you, because I was so convinced, like, nobody's gonna hurt me. Like, nobody's gonna do anything. So I'm not gonna let anybody mess with me. Meanwhile, I'm in a relationship. This dude is whipping me, beating me, verbally. It'd be like, I'm getting demolished. And I'm just like, ain't nobody gonna hurt me no more. I'm like,
it was points in the story where I was like, oh, this didn't take her out right here.
Right.
So when we come back, I want to talk about, there are certain patterns that I know that you didn't want to have for your children, and that helped to shape the ministry that you're in now, and then we'll talk about how you overcame.
Okay.
So we will be back, and I hope you have enjoyed Miss Marilyn Lacey. Her story is powerful. Make sure you tune in for part 2 on The Glow Up. So we are back with Miss Marilyn Lacey on The Glow Up. So you know from part 1 that her story is powerful. So now I want to talk to you about, I know as a mother, we try to shield our children from certain things, and we definitely don't want them to go through some of the things that we went through. So just talk to us about some of the things that you had to endure as far as your children.
Let me start by saying I was out at dinner the other night with my youth pastor and some people from our youth ministry. And the young man said, I want like 10 kids. And I'm saying, like, that was my prayer for the longest time, like from when I was a teenager up until I had my first child at 30. And so I really thought I couldn't have children because I thought I had done so much damage to myself that it was finished for me. But I told him, I said, you know, the phrase, be careful what you ask for, is one of the truest things I've ever heard, because that's all I wanted was children. But I didn't know that by the time they would get here, I would be so broken and so damaged and not have any patience, not have any nurturing skills or really know how to communicate, because I didn't have any of that.
Right.
I just had street.
Wow.
And so when it's different from being a mother and being a parent.
True.
It's different from being a father and being a parent. We are to teach. And so when you don't know, what are you teaching? And so my mission now is to educate women on, we have to really pay attention to what we are passing down and what we are speaking. Because if we come from dysfunction, all we know is dysfunction, we give it to them.
Very
Here,
true.
now you take this dysfunction.
Yes.
And then in some years it'll be your children with their kids and dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm intentionally trying to stop that. Not all the way there yet, but I'm not where I was.
Right.
And so, you know, I married, let me start by saying I had 4 children, like bam, 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 bam. And the father, when I got pregnant with the 4th, the father was like, you know, 3 is enough. I'm not, you know, you're moving a little too fast, like it was just me. Mm-hmm. It's too much, it's too fast. And I'm like, well, I had just found out I was 7 weeks pregnant with my 4th child.
Wow.
And he gave me an ultimatum. He said, you know, if you don't abort this one, I'm going to leave. And I really didn't honestly think that, because I'm like, dude, I just had 3 of your kids. Like, I'm pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought it was just talk, but he left because I decided. He didn't know that I was still haunted by the 2 kids I aborted when I was 14. I still wanted what they looked like, what they sound like, how old they be. You know, I counted every year. Yes. They'd be this age by now. And he didn't know that hurt me so bad to know. I took my own children's lives, you know, and that was hard for me. I got high years just trying to cope with that alone. And it wasn't even my choice. So I thought.
Right.
Because when you're 14, nobody tells you. It's really your choice. Your mother can't make you have an abortion. And so I thought I had to have one. And so he left, and, oh, Jesus, just be careful in your broken state and let God heal. Let God heal. Because a girlfriend of mine, I had started going to church. You know, God had really started tugging on me. I started going to church. I was going to this program every Friday called Reformers Unanimous or something. And there was people with unwanted, unhealthy addictions, you know, whatever it be. Money, gambling, food, shopping, whatever. And I was going through that program, and it came a time for me to share my testimony. And that testimony took me back to when I was 14, pregnant by my first boyfriend. And it put him on my mind.
Right.
And I found out that he was locked up doing like 25 to life for like attempted murder. And my girlfriend suggested to me, you know you can find him?
Wow.
Brokenness.
Brokenness,
yeah. And you know what I said? Girl, how? Like, for real?
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like when you're not in your right mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found him online, and we began writing each other. And his first letter, he says, you know, when I come home, we're getting married. And I didn't even know he was like 6 months on his way home. And I was just so happy my mind had completely blocked out the fact that he had beat me so bad when I was 14 years old. That's why I stopped dating him. But I didn't remember. And when he came home, the day he stepped out of prison, we went to the courthouse and got married.
Wow.
10 years. 10 years.
Wow.
And I've had some hard years, but they were 10 of the hardest years.
So you went on to have children with him as
I
well?
had 3 more children with him.
Okay.
I did. And then my cousin passed away, and I adopted her daughter. And she was 3. She was about to turn 3 at the same age as one of my daughters. My second to last was 3. And so she made 8. And, you know, just hard. You know, he was so messed up from fresh out of prison. And I just tried so hard to make it work because I didn't want to be a failure. I didn't want to admit, you know, because there was some naysayers like, girl, you about to marry him? Like, he just coming up.
Yeah. You wanted it
You
to
all
work.
right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. He's my first love.
Right.
And it was everything but love. Like, you know, honestly. I felt from his part. I loved him, you know what I'm saying? And I tried to love him, but it was just like infidelity and lying and abuse. But I stayed through all of it, not even realizing what I'm now taking my children through. The very thing that I despise my mother for. Why is she so weak? Why do she just keep clinging to these dudes? Why do she let him talk to her like that? Now it's me.
I think that's something.
And God really started to speak to me. You know, I had a father who was a heroin addict, and even after I found out my husband was doing drugs. And so I said, you know what? This what you want to do? Oh, we gonna do it. We gonna do it big, honey, because I know how to get high. I gathered like all of my valuables and pawned them. And we went and copped some dope, girl, and we was just like getting high. And one day, just, you know, after like a couple of weeks in it, I looked in the mirror at myself, and the Holy Spirit said to me, you will die.
Wow.
And it made me remember that when I was 16, I heard the same thing. And that's when I stopped doing heroin. He said, you will die. And I heard it again. I was like, you know what? I gave him what I thought was the ultimate. You're going to have to stop or you got to go. I'm not doing this.
Right.
You know, I got kids now. And, you know, God was really dealing with me because I despised my father for doing dope. Like, why didn't he love me enough? He didn't even love me enough to stop getting high. Like, what? I didn't even mean nothing to him. And the Holy Spirit said, do your kids mean anything to you? Do it mean you don't love them? No, it means you messed up. And you need to start relying on me to help you because you can't do it by yourself.
So true.
And so, you know, he really just started to deal with me. And things got worse with my husband. My health was failing so much for so long, like during my whole marriage. After I had England, who was my last daughter, they diagnosed me with congestive heart failure. Wow. And my heart was at 15%, on the way to just stop beating, period. And so, you know, it got better, then it got bad. Then it got better, then it got bad. So now they calling a meeting like, listen, we're just going to go ahead and give you a device because we don't, you know, want anything now. I'm like, no, I'm going to just have to trust God. But it's like I knew it was because I kept going back to, you know, I was bound.
Right.
I was bound and things had me. And the only way I knew how to cope was to be high. It's like I never dealt with nothing sober.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I can't deal with this. Like, I can't.
You reverted back to what you knew.
Yeah, and so I just kept going back. But every time I went back, my body would be like, God was telling me, like, you're going to leave. Like, I'm gonna just call you home. If you're not going to do what I need you to do, what I've sent you to do,
right,
I'm going to call you home.
Right.
And so, you know, I had to just really say, I'm done. Like, I'm done, and I just can't do it anymore. And I was in the hospital. I got to the hospital. I felt so bad. I felt like my head was pounding. It was going to explode. I got to the hospital, my blood pressure was high, they kept me there. The next morning, I woke up to a call from Child Protective Services saying that they had my daughter, my oldest daughter, in the counselor's office at her school. She said that my husband asked her to have sex with him the night before. And the very first words out my mouth was what? She's lying.
Wow. So the same thing that your mother said.
Thing.
Yeah.
She is lying. He would not do that. Like, he has raised her for 10 years. I'm going off.
Right.
But it's like, as I'm hearing myself, I'm like, I'm saying the same things that my mother said. But it was like, I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. You understand?
Looking
It
back,
was like,
though,
now I understood why my mother didn't. It wasn't, I don't believe it was that she didn't believe. She couldn't believe that this man that she has spent years with and given children to, you know what I'm saying? Because that's where I was. I'm like, no, she's lying. She's mad about something. And so for months, they did the investigation. They couldn't prove. It was like a he say, she say. They can't determine who was lying, and neither one of them would change their story. Like, both of them was swearing to God they was telling the truth.
Right.
I was mentally tormented for months, and God knew it. And I just began to cry out, like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it if you don't help me, because I felt like I was betraying my daughter and I'm betraying my husband. I'm like, this is my husband. And I'm telling this man, like, because I would begin to believe her and then feel condemned, like, you calling him a pedophile? Like, are you you calling, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's your husband. And so God, nothing will be hidden with him.
I know that's right.
Nothing.
That's true.
Nothing will be hidden with him. And if you seek him, he's gonna show up, and he's gonna show up with clarity. But you have to be clear in your mind to know when you hear from him.
Right.
Because Thanksgiving came, I couldn't cook for my kids. It was the first Thanksgiving. When I tell you, I couldn't even hardly get out of bed. My children ate bologna and cheese for months. I couldn't cook. I couldn't do nothing. I would leave the house when they went to school and go and get packs and packs of bologna and cheese and bread. That's all my kids ate for months. And I just really began to tell God, like, I'm not going to make it. I don't know, because he's still calling and saying, can he come home? Meanwhile, Child Protective Services are saying they couldn't find any fault. It's just that he said he did and she said he did, but they can't determine. So they put a safety plan in place, which is she has to be appropriately dressed at all times. I shouldn't leave her alone with him, blah, blah, blah. Now, the Tamar ministry at my church that I'm in, I was just a student in it at this time. So I'm going 6 months, almost 7 months had passed. February the 1st came and was my daughter's birthday, the daughter that we share. And she said, Mom, please let Dad come home for my birthday. And I'm thinking, like, you know what, it's been a while. I mean, and if I'm truthful, like, I do want him to come home, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know what? I will let, he can come over. And I told Kaya, and I'm like, listen, do you mind? She's like, I don't care. And so in everything, I was trying to find fault in her, because I'm like, why wouldn't you care? Why, if he really did this, why did you say, and it's like, I really picked my daughter apart. And it's like, I don't know if I will ever truly forgive myself for that. You know what I'm saying? Because it hurt to the soul. You understand? Like, what I put her through. And it's like, oh my gosh. But she was like, I don't care. And so he came. That was Friday. The next morning, I had Tamar. I wasn't going to go because he was there, and I was pressed to, he hasn't been here in 7 months, so I'm not going to go to church. And you know what I mean?
wanted to be there.
But the Holy Spirit said, get up and go.
Right.
And I got up, and I went, and I took my 2 oldest daughters with me. And that was the beginning. Because when I got in that room, my daughters didn't sit with me. They sat away from me. And a woman who sat next to me was praying in the spirit and kept saying, I hear you, Father, I hear you, Holy Spirit. Oh, thank you. Oh, shut up. And I'm like, okay. And so when they left, she said, that little girl who was sitting over there, her spirit is grieving. She's grieving. Jesus. And I'm saying, what little girl? Because it was only a few little girls in the room, and 2 of them were mine.
Right.
So I said, what little girl? She said, the one that had that blue coat on. I said, that's my daughter. And she grabbed my hand. She said, oh, baby, she's not lying about what she said to you.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, my gosh. So this was the second time. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take you back to Thanksgiving. I had went off on my daughter because she was snickering, she was writing in a journal, and she was just like happy-go-lucky. And I'm saying to myself, if this thing happened, like, why are you acting like nothing, like nothing's, my life is destroyed. My husband is, you know what I'm saying? Everybody is distraught, and you're around here just like nothing. So I snatched her journal, and I started reading it, and she jumped up. That's my private property. I'm like, little girl, you don't have any private property, okay? Let's understand that. Yeah. And so I just was going off on her, and my sister began to pray in a tongue. Before she said anything, she said, while you were just yelling at her, the Holy Spirit was telling me, she not lying. And immediately she started speaking in a tongue to me. And the Holy Spirit said, she's not lying. Everything she said happened. But I was getting high. And I was drinking with my sister's neighbor. Because remember, that's all I know how to do when things are hectic in my life. And so I had been out on the front porch smoking weed and sipping on a drink. And when after I heard it, it was like immediately I was sober. And I called him on a FaceTime, like, the Holy Spirit just spoke to me and told me, Kayena's not lying. And he laughed. He like, what, you high? What, are you drunk? Like, what's good? You all right? And because I immediately felt like, oh my gosh, like, what am I saying? Like, I'm losing my mind. That's what I'm saying. You have to know when you hear from God. And don't be deterred by what anybody else says. Right. But that comes through relationship. And when you are not clear in your mind, what I found out in my life, God has spoke to me in my highest times, in my drunkest times, in my, in the mud. Right. And so I don't have to be in a particular place or space to hear from him. He speaks. Right. You understand? But because I was so messed up at that point, I let him tell me, girl, you tripping. You must be smoking something. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry. I can't. So now I'm at the Tamar ministry, and the woman said, she's not lying about what she said. So this is the second time that I've heard it now. Right. Because God said, you didn't hear me the first time. I'm going to say it again. Yeah. And so she said, before you and your children leave, do you mind if I pray with y'all? And I said, of course not. They put us in a circle. They prayed down a vision from heaven, because I saw my husband in bed with my daughter. Wow. I saw it. And it's like, I had been like the walking dead up until that point. When I tell you, it was, everything fell off me in that moment, everything. And they didn't know he was at my house because I was embarrassed to tell anybody that I was still seeing him. You understand? Yeah. And so they didn't know. But the spirit knew. And she said, every foul spirit that's in your house today, when you go home, you command it in Jesus' name to leave. Right. It has to leave. It cannot stay. I mean, she was like, and I was like, okay, but she was feeding me. Yes. You know, God knew that she needed to speak to my spirit because I was physically dead. I was spiritually dead. Right. And she was speaking life to my spirit, and that gave me the strength. That day when I went in the house, I was laughing. I don't even know why, but I was looking at him. I was laughing. I said, you know, God told me what you done. And I didn't hear him. I heard you over him. I said, but today, he showed me what you did. Now you tell me what you did to my daughter. And he couldn't even speak. He just dropped his head and cried. Wow. And said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I'm like, you sorry? And I said, you know what's so funny? You know the best thing about God? He will keep you still in a situation that you cannot imagine being still in.
Right.
Because if you had asked me, what would you do if you find out that he really did?
Right.
Oh, he will be no more. Like, that's not like, yeah, what I'm gonna do?
Right.
But God was like, be still. I couldn't move. All I could say was get your stuff and get out. Like, and I was so calm. It was no screaming. It was no yelling. I didn't break anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just like, get your stuff and go. Like, it's time for you to go. And so even after that, for like 3 more months, he was begging, please, I just want to make it up to you. I just want to come home. I just want to. And God was telling me not to move. Mm-hmm. And so I told him that. I said, you know, I can't move until God tells me to. And I'm just going to be still. Every other thing in my marriage, I had taken him back like so many times for everything. But God said, don't you move. And I'm like, I'm not going to move. So he called me one day crying, like, what do I have to do? Just tell me what I got to do. I'll do anything. I said, well, the first thing you can do is tell your mom who put her mouth on me and my daughter.
Right.
Very bad. You understand? Like, his family, oh. I said, everybody who put their mouth on my daughter, calling her a liar, you can tell them the truth.
Right.
The CPS and the police that investigated you and questioned you, you can tell them the truth. Mm-hmm. He said, give me some time. I'm like, whatever. But he called me like almost a week later. And he said, can you come get me from, he said, I told my mother. And if you take me to the police station, I'll turn myself in.
Wow.
I was like, what? Oh, he running game because he was good, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, he running game. He trying to see me, and you know this is his way. And I told him, I said, listen, if I come to get you, I'm driving to the police station. Like, we not about to chill. He's like, no, I just wanna, you know, I wanna just get it over with. And I went and picked my daughter up from school because I felt like it was important for her to know and see that he is going to tell these people that he was lying. Because, you know, everybody, I'm not going to say everybody doubted, but people doubted, you know, and they're like, well, girls say this sometimes when they're not getting their way or they're upset about stuff. And, but he went and turned himself in and he was detained and they held him for 30 days. Because what they decided was they could not charge him with sexual assault. He was charged with second-degree sexual assault on a minor and second-degree child abuse because he had given my daughter a spanking, pulled her pants and her underwear down and spanked her. Wow. So they decided we're not going to charge him with child abuse because he's her stepdad and he can spank her. Why he pulled her panties down, you know, this is me and the district attorney talking, the state's attorney, like, well, now why he would pull her underwear down, she's 12 years old, that should be a red flag to you. Right. And I'm like, oh, it is, you know, and she's like, and we can't charge him with sexual abuse because no sex took place. And so I'm just giving you a courtesy call to let you know when he go to court tomorrow, he will be released. And it just felt like another punch to the stomach. So I'm like, now I have to tell my daughter again, there's no consequence for what he done. And I told her, I said, you know, they're going to let him go. They can't charge him. I explained everything to her. He called me that next night and was like, well, we went to court that morning. We went to court and they changed it. They gave him a $15,000 bail. I don't know what happened. He was all huddled up, whispering, gave him the bail. I left. He had a couple guys call me from jail like, oh, his bail is, I'm like, listen, call his mother. Right. Don't call me. Like, I was in the court. I heard the bill. I'm not paying.
Yeah, they wanted you to
miss me with that. Call his mother. And so, but God would have it that the next day they took him back to court and revoked the bail. Wow. And just let him go. Let him go. And he called me like, can you come get me? Like, they just let me out. And I went downstairs and told my daughter, like, I don't know what's going on, but they're releasing him, and he just asked me to come get him, but I'm not going to. And my daughter looked at me, she was like, Ma, you can go get him, it's okay. I forgive him. Wow. Right. Wow. I'm like, she's 12. I couldn't, I was so far away from forgiveness. I'm like, but I went to get him. because I wanted to know why, like what, what did I do? What didn't I do? Or, you know, you equate it to yourself not being enough or not pretty enough or not, you know. And
what
so,
are you lacking?
Yeah, I wanted him to explain to me, like, what would make you ask her that? But he just went on about how God was showing him death while he was in jail. And like what would happen if he was to die. And how he would leave a sour taste in everybody's mouth. And he just wanted to be the husband that God had called him to be for me, and the father and this and that. And I couldn't hardly hear him because I was so angry. And I was done. Like I didn't have ears. My ears were closed to him and they were open to the Holy Spirit. And I was just listening to him say, be still and be quiet.
Yeah.
Be still and be quiet.
Yeah.
And so that's what I done. And you know, he called his mother. She had some words for him. And I believe the last thing she said to him is, you know, you out here and you doing the wrong things and you're going to wind up dying just like your father. His father OD'd off of heroin years ago when he was 12. And so I gave him $20 to get on the light rail and go back to Baltimore to his aunt's house. The next day, his family was at my door like, he's dead.
Wow.
Dead. And I'm like, I couldn't even comprehend. Like, it was such a conflicting feeling inside me because they came like 3 o'clock in the morning and I shot out my door. Like I ran out the front door and I was screaming his name and I was telling him, I'm here. Here I go. Like I was trying to reach his spirit to say, I'm right here. Like I didn't leave you. You know what I'm saying? It was excruciating.
How does that play a toll on you now? Have you let it go? Were you able to forget, able to heal from that?
I would say I'm still healing from it.
Okay.
I think healing is a lifelong journey. I don't believe in, you know, because I've said out my mouth so many times, oh, I'm healed. I thought I was healed from being sexually abused.
Yeah.
Until I got the Tamar.
Yeah.
Until I got the Tamar. And I was like, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So healing happens every day. Every day.
So how has the sexual abuse played a role in your children's lives?
It's a process. And so, you know, some days my daughter is good. So let me clarify. Let me just tell you the whole gist of it. And so after he died, I had a daughter. My daughter was, I think she was about, I don't even know how old she was, but she suffered from chronic constipation like for a while. And so one of my girlfriends was saying, Marilyn, you know what you should do? Like get some olive oil and just go around her bottom and just try to help it so when it's coming out, you know. Yeah. And so I'm explaining to her, like this is what I'm gonna do, because you could just see it on her face. Like she would be so hurt sitting, just trying to, you know, she would try not to go to the bathroom, and I'm just like, God, what can I do? Like, please help me to help her. And so I said, this is what I'm gonna do. And she was like, no, I don't want you to touch it. I said, look, it's going to be better. It's going to help. And my adopted daughter said, that's what Dad used to do to me. And it was like a pin. Like you couldn't, like it was deathly silent. Wow. And my son started screaming, you're lying, you're lying. And I stopped him. I was like, don't. And I took her upstairs. And I was like, help me understand, like, what did he used to do to you? And she said, well, he would tell me that I didn't clean my bottom good, and he would make me go get the baby wipes, and he would clean my bottom, and he would stick his fingers in my butt. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I passed out. And so it was like I had experienced wailing. Because I had cried a many tears, but I had never wailed.
It's a difference.
Yeah, it's a difference. And you sound like an animal or something, like a sound that you don't even recognize as coming from your own self.
Right.
But I was wailing, and I called my prayer partner, and she ain't say what, who. she just started praying. And I could hear her, and she prayed me up off the floor. And when I got up, my oldest daughter was standing there, and she said, "Do you believe her?" And I said, "Of course I believe her, because why would she say that?" Mm-hmm. And she just took a sigh, and she said, "That's what he did to me." And I was back on the floor. Like, oh my goodness. So all this time, he knew that he had been abusing my cousin's daughter, which is, my daughter.
Right.
And what he had done to my oldest daughter that night. But she went to school the next day, and she didn't let it continue. Right. She was just like, "No, I'm going to tell." But she didn't tell what he did. She still, in loving him, she was trying to protect him. Yeah. And so she just told that he asked her to have sex with him. And come to find out, he had violated her with his hands. And all the while, steady trying to set a trap for me, telling me, "Oh, I'm going to show you that I'm the man God got for you." And he set a trap for himself, because with the $20 that I gave him, he went and bought a bag of heroin and sniffed it and died.
Wow.
The very next day that he got out of jail. He got out of jail April 19th. He died April 20th.
Listen, this is powerful. And it's so much more to your story, which everybody can read in God's grace. Yes. And I'm telling you,
the grace
of
my lover Jesus.
Of my lover Jesus.
A woman's journey to salvation.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's what I got from it, God's grace. Because you go through so much. And God protects you, and you still are in your right mind. It's nothing but the grace of God.
You know why? Because it's a kingdom assignment.
Listen.
And so everything he does, that he saves you from, that he spares your life, that he protects you, that he builds you through, is for you to glorify him and let people know it's not me.
Right.
It's never been me.
Right.
If it was up to me, right now, I'd probably be getting money. You understand?
Yeah.
Because I know how to
would go differently.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? But it's like, sometimes it's your mindset. And so we have to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. Because it's easy to do the same stuff. But it's like, God did not save me from all that he did for nothing.
So while you're talking about that, tell us give the viewers how they can overcome childhood sexual abuse, how they can overcome generational curses. What was the turning point for you, or what can they implement to overcome in their lives?
So what I found is that without God, I can do nothing. Without him, I am nothing. I can't think, I can't breathe, I can do nothing. And so I found 2 scriptures that I held on to. But you have to believe. You have to have faith, you have to repent, and you have to believe that he is who he says he is. Matthew 19:26 says, "With God all things are possible." Luke 1:37 says, "For nothing is impossible with God." And it is those 2 scriptures, out of every other scripture, it was those 2 that reminds me there's nothing God can't do. There's nothing I can do that I can't do without him. There's nothing I can't do with him. I'm sorry. And so you have to get to a place in your life where he is your source. Sometimes, God will give us people and villages, and we begin to make those people and villages our source, but they're not the source. Right. They are just but a helping hand. God is the source. And you have to see it that way. And you have to believe through everything that if God is for me, who can be against me? And it is all working for my good. It all works together for your good. And so whatever you have endured, whatever you have survived, if you have survived it, there is purpose in it. My girlfriend said, "Marilyn, you about to say pain, pay me." I said, I received that.
I like that.
There's purpose in the pain. It definitely is. But you have to be willing to go through the process. Sometimes we just want the promise, and we don't want to go through the process.
It's the truth.
But I thank God for the process, because I know that in my own self, if he gives me anything that I'm not ready for, I'm going to be like the son who wasted away and come back. You know, he found himself sleeping with the pigs.
Prodigal son.
Yeah.
And had to come back.
Yeah, so I'm just like, Lord, let me be ready for what you have for me, because I want to glorify him in everything. I really do, and give people hope. People lack hope, and it's like, you know, as long as you have him, as long as you believe in the power, this much, what he said, a mustard seed. He only asking you to believe this much.
Right.
And he gonna do it. And so I tell him, God, I don't know how, but I know you are.
Listen.
I don't know how, but I know who.
Right.
Yeah. I don't
This
know how.
has been powerful. I thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm
for
so
coming
proud
on.
of you. Yes.
Thank you.
I'm trying to be like you when I grow up.
To God be the glory.
Yes.
So listen, we just gonna lighten it up real quick. We're gonna play a little game really quickly. You tell me the first thing that comes to your mind
Oh my
when you hear these words. Then after that, tell our viewers how they can get in touch with you. You ready?
Yes.
Love. First word that comes to your mind.
Jesus.
Life.
Jesus.
Family.
Jesus.
Marriage.
Jesus.
Friendship.
Jesus.
Jesus. How can the viewers get in touch with you?
So I am Marilyn Lacey on every social media. Marilyn Lacey on Facebook. I'm Evangelist Marilyn Lacey on Instagram. I'm Marilyn_Lacey on Twitter. I am Marilyn Lacey at gmail.com. And of course my website, restoredbymarilynllc.com.
Listen, Marilyn has some awesome products. We're going to showcase them during the commercial. It's one of her scrubs that she has. Oh my God. You got to get it. So we'll definitely showcase them. But we thank you so much for tuning in. On part 3, we are going to have the awesome Tiara Alexander sing for us. She's going to be accompanied by her husband. So stay tuned. Next on the Glow Up. Welcome back to the Glow Up with Shawneya Ellis. We are super excited about our next guest, Tiara Alexander, and her husband, Jawan Alexander. Please tell the people, what song will you be singing?
I'll be singing Kingdom, sung by Ruth Leontra.
Awesome. You're in for a treat.
Yeah. Everyone that I meet, I can give a smile. Everywhere I see a need, the extra mile. Everybody's looking for change, but who will take the lead? Yeah. The change that I wanna see is gonna start with me. 'Cause there's a light in me that was made to shine. Something great will happen if you use yours and I use mine. 'Cause we are kingdom, and we'll have authority. God has given us the power so we can change anything. What we're speaking and what we're thinking is exactly what will be. It's not the kingdom, it's not religion, but it's the kingdom. And it's in me. And it's in me. And it's in me. And it's in me. Everyone that I meet, I can give a smile, smile. Everywhere I see a need, I can be extra mile. Yeah, yeah. Everybody's looking for change, but who will take the lead? The change that I wanna see is gonna start with me. 'Cause there's a light in me that was made to shine. Something great will happen if you use yours and I use mine. 'Cause we are kingdom, and we have authority. can change anything. What we're speaking and what we're thinking is exactly what will be. It's not the building, it's not religion, but it's the kingdom, and it's in me. Hey, and it's in me. Say it's in me, and it's in me. Say God gave it to me, and it's in me. Said it's in me, and it's in me. Hey, use me to make a difference, 'cause I wanna make a difference. Use me to make a difference. I wanna make a difference. Use me to make a difference. I wanna be used by you, Lord, yeah. Use me to make a difference. I wanna make a, 'cause there's a light in me that was made to shine. Something great will happen if you use yours and I use mine. 'Cause we are kingdom, and we have authority. God has given us the power so we can change anything. What we're speaking and what we're thinking is exactly what will be. It's not the building, it's not religion, but it's the kingdom, and it's in you. Shawneya, it's in you. Shawneya, it's in you. That's my auntie, y'all, and it's in you.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Glow Up. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. So, if you asked, how can I connect? How can I stay tuned and know what's going on with The Glow Up? You can reach us on every social media site. Well, Facebook and Instagram with The Glow Up with Shawneya Ellis. Thank you for tuning in, and remember that we're also going to be on the Damascus Roads Network, so you can tune in that way. Subscribe on our YouTube channels and get ready for more upcoming shows with great content. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.